Welcome. I'm Kinetic Symphony. I hunt down and report on mysterious and weird, true stories, from glitches to the paranormal. Case file number 431, written by large-Marge-incharge, The Colossal Cookie Coincidence. Alright, I lived in Argentina with a fellow group of North Americans. There were 6 of us. Well, I had been there about 6 months, and while I love the culture and food, you start to miss stupid little things, mostly because they are impossible to acquire, especially in Argentina, as they have a strict no-import law. But here we are one hot, humid summer day in our little shack of a house with no air conditioner, and I just couldn't get over this craving I had been having for a few days. It was for those stupid little Keebler elf fudge cookies. You know, the ones that look like a little elf in reverse Oreo style. So I'm just sitting here, thinking about these cookies, man. And here's where it gets weird. We all worked in the same office, and in Argentina, you just don't get stuff by mail often, and never stuff from out of the country. You had to go into the city and pick them up at customs. I was the guy that did that. The only guy. Well, we had just finished lunch when the mailman came by with a package from my friend, who was sitting next to me. And the other guy who received the packages comes in and hands it to him, which is again super weird, it even showed up. And here's the thing, it was so impossible to get those cookies. I never even mentioned it to anyone, but he opens the package in a microwave oven-sized brown box. And what is on the very top of that package uncovered? The cookies! He had no idea I wanted them so much, but he grabs the cookies and looks up with a smile and says, "You guys want some?" I still can't believe it. Not only should this have never happened, but it would have taken 4 to 6 weeks to arrive if I asked for some from the US. Case notes, file number 431. Okay, I have to admit, stories like this and other occurrences from my own life lead me down the path of thinking more that life is a grand game. I've spoken about this hypothesis a few times in referencing explanations to other types of glitches. For instance, quantum immortality would be the act of transferring our character data to another server. Then we have instances where in our own lives, things that shouldn't fit and fall into place just do. For whatever reason, if you think back on it, you realize, hey, what the hell? Everything went right as rain, and the odds of that are astronomical. Sure, coincidence. Maybe there's nothing here besides the phenomenal luck of the cookie draw. But my gut says, yeah. You, for some reason, needed to have those cookies so the game of life would continue along the path it should have. Case file number 432, written by ZiggyThePineapple. Hairnets in coffee mugs. What a weird timeline. Items randomly appear in the apartment with no reasonable explanation. My girlfriend and I recently moved into a new apartment, just a little shy of 2 months ago. Weird things have happened since the beginning here, like stove dials and sinks being left on. But most of this can be explained, since we both tend to forget turning things on and off from time to time. But today was different. Today, while getting ready to go out for dinner, my girlfriend noticed something in our bathroom. She has a coffee mug that she uses to keep her hair elastics in. Other than a few bobby pins, the only thing that is ever in this cup is hair elastics. But today, as she was getting ready, she noticed that there were 2 perfectly intact hairnets in the mug as well. There is absolutely no reasonable explanation as to why these hairnets would be in the mug. Neither one of us uses hairnets. The only time she has ever used a hairnet is for when she used to dance, and that was over 8 years ago now. Plus, she uses that coffee mug every day, and I've even seen her use it and wash it since we moved here. I have absolutely no idea how something like this could have happened. I would almost be comfortable with the idea of an intruder, but how would an intruder know exactly where in our bathroom cupboard to put something as specific as a hairnet in my girlfriend's hair elastics mug? It all just seems way too odd. Case file number 433, written by Chordsy, an aircraft frozen in time. In my early 20s, I was walking to work one morning. It was a clear morning in spring, with my headphones on listening to music. Poodling around, minding my own business. I turn a corner, look up, and see a huge passenger plane flying low. It was so low you could see the windows. Planes make a lot of noise, and that noise would be heard over my headphones. This was in the days before any noise-canceling headphones. My headphones were good, but not that good. So I take off my headphones, and that plane was silent. It was just hovering, maybe 100 or so feet off the ground. My distance approximations aren't great. I was weirded out but kept walking, otherwise I would have been late for work. I lived and worked in a village in the middle of nowhere, in England at the time, so being about 8 AM, there wasn't anyone around. I was so freaked out I put my headphones back on and kept walking, trying to ignore this impossibility. Every time I speak about this, people don't believe me, but it was one of the weirdest things I've ever experienced. Wish I'd taken my phone out and taken a picture, but I was so miffed by the whole experience I never thought to do so. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Case file number 434, written by HopefulLadybug. Keys open doors, but who was controlling this key? So a few days ago, my keys were stolen after I forgot them on my front door. Not smart, I know. I came back home from a doctor's appointment and probably got distracted and forgot them in the lock. Around 6 PM that day, I decided to go get some groceries and couldn't find my keys. I spent almost an hour looking for them before thinking maybe they were stolen. I decided to call my landlord and he told me there were some random guys in the building the entire afternoon. It was too late already for him to get a new lock, so he told me he'd be there the next morning at 8 AM to change a lock. I obviously didn't feel safe knowing someone had my key, but I knew the door couldn't be opened if I kept my spare key in the lock from the inside. So that night, I carefully put the key in the lock before going to bed. I know I did, because it was the only way I could sleep safely. Otherwise, someone could have literally walked in. They had the keys to the 3 locks on my door. I put the key in the main lock, the one that really allows you to open the door, and locked the other 2. My bedroom door is in the hallway about 2 meters from the door, and if someone walks in, I can hear it. The door makes a lot of noise when you open it, so I would have heard if someone tried to come in. I fell asleep around 3 AM, was a little anxious, and woke up at 7:45 AM to wait for my landlord. He showed up at 8:15, and when I went to open the door, the 2 locks were closed, but the spare key I used was outside the door. At first I shrugged it off and didn't think much of it, but then I realized, how on earth did this happen? My landlord changed the other 2 locks, but not the main one that day. It's still safe, don't worry. So later, I asked a friend to come in and help me check if you can open the door when the key is left in the lock from the inside, and it's not possible, as I thought. I have no idea how the key ended up back outside. My other key is definitely lost because I've been searching for them ever since. My place isn't really big, and I don't have much clutter or potential places they could be. So yeah, I don't know what happened, but it was really weird. Bonus file, written by Frazier P. A Paranormally Murdered Guide. When I was young, I wanted to buy a Ouija board to play around with friends. However, when I went to grab one at the store one day with my mom, she strictly advised me against it. I found it odd that she was so provoked by the idea of it, but I didn't think too much of it beyond this. A few years later, when we were on holiday in Hawaii, the topic came up and she told us the story of her experience with one. When my mom was little, maybe 8 or 9 years old, her and her friends were messing around with one. They began talking to a girl who claimed to have been murdered. As the conversation went on, they learned she had been killed by her boyfriend and that her body had been dumped under a bridge near where she lived in England. They decided to visit the site, not thinking they would find anything, but when they got to the bridge, they were shocked to find a murdered woman next to the bridge. When the police interviewed my mom and her friends, they simply did not believe the story and thought somehow they were involved with the murder. However, when the boyfriend was in fact proven guilty, the whole scenario was deemed a coincidence.